Wind Waker is a very beloved Zelda game. While the game was hated heavily on release for looking too cartoony, it ended up becoming one of the more popular Zelda games overall. Even though most people warmed up to Wind Waker over time, there was still one thing that people still really hated about this game, and that's the Triforce Chart quest. For people who don't know, after you beat the final main dungeon in Wind Waker, the game drops you in this state where you have to go find all of these MacGuffins if you want to go to the final area. A lot of people feel like that this is a huge pace breaker and that it ruins the overall flow of the game, but I think something that a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually collect every single piece of the Triforce before you fully power up the Master Sword. In fact, there's unique dialogue if you try to go to Hyrule with the completed Triforce, but without the powered up Master Sword. Alright, I know you're thinking, okay, smartass, but the game doesn't direct you to do the quest until after the Wind Temple, which is why most people don't do it until after that dungeon. After the Wind Temple, there is a cutscene where the King of Red Lions tells you, now you must go collect the Triforce pieces, but that's not the first time the King of Red Lions tells you to collect the Triforce. He actually mentions it right after your second visit to Hyrule. The dialogue in this cutscene is also slightly different if you actually have a Triforce piece before he mentions this to you. In fact, after seeing that cutscene for the first time, even if you don't have a Triforce piece, do you know how many Triforce pieces you can get at this point in the game? All but 2 of them! But as you saw, even before this cutscene, you can still get Triforce pieces earlier than this. Let me break it down for you. The first Triforce chart that you can get is right after the Forbidden Woods. Yes, right after the second dungeon. Once you beat this dungeon, you're allowed to go anywhere in the Great Sea. From here, we sail northeast to go to Bird's Peak Rock, where we can collect our first Triforce chart. The only item you'll need to get this Triforce chart is a Hui pair. Multiple probably, unless you're both really good at controlling the seagull or just very lucky in general. Basically, you're using the seagull to try to hit every switch on top of these high rocks before the birds get to you. After successfully hitting every switch with the seagull, the door will open, allowing you to get your first Triforce chart. Honestly, I never use the pairs to control the seagulls anymore because you can easily just clip through the wall with the grappling hook. After we get our first Triforce chart here, we can start progressing with the main plot and start sailing towards Great Fist Isle. On our way towards Great Fist Isle, we're going to make one little pit stop towards the Island of Steel to get our second Triforce chart. I know what you're thinking, that we need bombs to destroy the warship at the entrance of the Island of Steel to get in it and to get the Triforce chart. While that's all true, Wind Waker is a very silly game where every single enemy has friendly fire. So if you swim right next to the warship guarding the entrance, the other warships will target you, therefore targeting that warship, and then you can destroy it without having bombs. But I guess this way is technically unintentional, so if you don't want to count this until you can intentionally get this Triforce chart, then yes, we need bombs, which, spoiler alert, you get right after the second dungeon. So overall, it isn't a huge sequence break because you're about to get the bombs anyways, but you can technically do it slightly earlier, so I figured I'd mention it. Also, if we're getting bombs right now, then that means we're at Windfall Island, and from here, if we just go a little bit northwest, we can get our first wallet upgrade. Wallet upgrades aren't required for the Triforce chart quest in the HD version of the game, but I'm playing the original here, so we need to go grab it. From here, there's one more Triforce chart we can get at this point in the game, and that's at Needle Rock Isle. Getting this Triforce chart is pretty easy because all you have to do is destroy the golden warship. In fact, just like the Island of Steel, you could technically do this without bombs because of friendly fire, but it's just more inconsistent because unlike the Island of Steel, the target here isn't stationary, so it's way harder to get those friendly fire hits to land. After that, you salvage its remains, and there you go. That's the next Triforce Chart. Well, unless you're playing the original Japanese release of Wind Waker, which gives you a treasure chart, which leads to another treasure chart, which leads to another treasure chart, which leads to another treasure chart, and then finally leads to the Triforce Chart. Yeah, I think we dodged a bullet here when this game got localized, because holy shit. With those 3 Triforce Charts in hand, plus with the wallet upgrades, we can actually start to decipher some of these charts now. So now we have 3 Triforce Charts before the Tower of Gods. We can't get more charts until the second visit to the Forsaken Fortress. Once we arrive there, we have to beat Phantom Cannon to obtain the Skull Hammer. And once we have this, we just leave. From here, we go back to Windfall, do a few things for Miss Maria, then trade her 20 joy pendants to get the detour vacation home. God, how rich is this lady for casually giving you an island for joy pendants, which only go for 5 rupees a pendant? Anyways, once you've entered your new home, you can turn off the fireplace, go through the sewers with your Skull Hammer, and from here we can get the next Triforce Chart. After that, we can finally return to the Forsaken Fortress and finish it. After finishing that and taking our second trip to Hyrule, we get told to start looking for the Triforce of Courage. So now we can go pick up the fire and ice arrows, and from here get the power bracelets. With the power bracelets, we can obtain 2 more Triforce Charts. At Stonewatcher Island, we can get rid of the stone head at the top of the island to go into a gauntlet of enemies, and after defeating them all, we get our Triforce Chart. Afterwards, we can go to Outset Island to obtain our next Triforce Chart. That's right, we do have to go through some of the Savage Labyrinth to get the next chart. Thankfully, we only need to do the first 30 floors and not all 50 of them. I wouldn't recommend getting this Triforce Chart this early, especially because you're gonna have to redo the labyrinth for the heart piece, but this video is all about highlighting how early you can actually get these charts, so yeah. After those 2, you're not getting another Triforce Chart for a hot minute here. We won't be able to get our remaining charts and shards until after we start the Wind Temple. We're here until we get the hook shot, which after we obtain that item, we just leave the Wind Temple. From here, we go to the most northeast corner of the map to Overlook Island. Once here, we use our hook shot to get to a cavern, which also has another gauntlet of enemies to fight. After defeating all those enemies, we obtain our next Triforce Chart. To obtain our final Triforce Chart, we need to head over to Diamond Step Island. Just like with Overlook Island, we can't actually get on the island without the hook shot. Once we're on the island, we go through this labyrinth of warp jars, and at the end of it, we get the Ghost Ship Chart. And with the Ghost Ship Chart, not only can we see where the Ghost Ship spawns, but it will also allow us to board the Ghost Ship. Once we're on board, we can defeat all the enemies on here to obtain the final Triforce Chart. And that's how it's possible to complete the Triforce before fully powering up the Master Sword. Now, do I think that most people are gonna go out of their way to complete the Triforce as soon as possible? Not really. But I mainly wanted to show that you can do this throughout the whole game, unlike the popular belief where you have to do it at the very end. But even with me showing all of this, there are probably still some people who would argue that saving it till the very end is a good idea, because by that point you'll have a ton of rupees which you'll need to decipher all the charts. While this might be true because the Earth and Wind Temples give you a ton of rupees as you go through them, but Wind Waker has a ton of ways to earn money just in general. First off, you have treasure charts, and when most of these are salvaged, they give you silver rupees. So salvaging just 2 treasure charts that give you 2 different silver rupees will be enough to pay for 1 Triforce Chart, no problem. Granted, you don't know what the reward for these are until after you salvage them up, so you might not get rupees off of it. You also need the treasure chart to actually make the treasures spawn near the island, so this may not be the best method for everybody. Another way to easily gain rupees in Wind Waker is by playing one of its many mini-games. Some of them range from being skill-based, like the swordplay, archery, puzzle sliding, and boating minigames, and the other ones are mostly luck-based minigames, which I guess you could do to earn money. There's nothing stopping you, which I guess is better than the mail sorting minigame, because Jesus fuck, you barely earned 30 rupees if you're actually good at this minigame. Holy
fuck?
The only time this video game actually pays you out decently well is when you go beyond 25 letters for the first time, but then after that your salary goes back to normal, so I don't know. If minigames are your cup of tea, then maybe killing some big octos is a good way for you to earn money instead. Just like with the treasure charts though, some of these big octos will give you other rewards outside of rupees, but at least half of these big octos have a rupee reward tied to beating them. There's also random salvage spots on the Great Sea which give you up to 20 to 50 rupees. Granted, they're random and can be a pain in the ass to grab, but they're actually a pretty good source of money. There's also a ton of caverns on the overworld which will give you a lot of rupees for either exploring them or defeating all the enemies inside of them. Hell, even in the rooms where you get the Triforce Charts, there's usually some pots nearby with a ton of rupees in them. And if you get really desperate, you can always sell your loot in your spoils bag. I don't really recommend this because most of these barely go for any amount of money except for maybe the Knight's Crest. If you do have a lot of leftover Knight's Crest, then you might actually make a good amount of money by just selling them. But everything else that you can sell really isn't worth selling and won't really get you any amount of money. But as you can see, you have a ton of different options for making rupees throughout all of Wind Waker. In fact, I'd argue to some degree that that's kind of the point of Wind Waker. Since the very start of this game, its mechanics have been slowly leading you into exploring and finding these options for yourself. From small things like the game giving you a bag to carry enemy loot in, to bigger things like the game giving you treasure charts which make you want to explore every island in the game just for more loot. They really want you to feel like that this sea is full of treasures and that you're just one explorer trying to find it all. But finding all those treasures and riches and not being able to do anything with them would make the game feel kind of hollow. This all ties back to the Triforce Charts costing so much money to decipher. The game is giving all of that money that you can find a purpose. And by doing so, it's tying all of those rupees that you find throughout the Great Sea as part of player progression. I'd even go as far as to argue that this is a key part of Wind Waker's identity, which is why it feels very weird that in Wind Waker HD, they made it so only 3 of these Triforce Charts need to be deciphered, with the other 5 charts being outright replaced by their respective shards. On one hand, getting all those rupees can be a very tedious task, but on the other, rupees now have way less purpose than they did in the original because what are you going to spend this on? The only thing that costs rupees that they added to Wind Waker HD is the Swift Sale. It's not that there's nothing to spend your rupees on, because even in the original there were other things to spend your rupees on outside of the Triforce Charts, but it does feel like in Wind Waker HD more than the original that you'll just have an abundance of rupees that you don't really have anything to use them on. In Wind Waker HD's defense, you can use your excess amount of rupees on the magic armor, which in Wind Waker HD, they changed the magic armor so it works more like how it did in Twilight Princess. So instead of your magic armor draining your magic meter to make you invincible, now it makes you invincible at the cost of your rupees. Though, unlike Twilight Princess, Wind Waker HD does not drain your rupees if you are actively using the magic armor. Instead, it only drains rupees when you're taking damage. But Wind Waker is a pretty easy game to begin with, and even with the HD remaster adding a hard mode, it's not really that much harder. So your mileage is going to vary whether or not this is actually a good way to spend your rupees or not. But putting Wind Waker HD aside, I hope this video made you realize that the Triforce Chart questline really isn't that bad or even tedious at all. But don't get me wrong, because on a first playthrough you might just wait until after the Wind Temple to start getting the charts and shards because it's a lot of money, and that's when the game forces you to look for them. But as you can see, you can always get the Triforce Charts and shards as you progress through the game normally. So if you ever replay Wind Waker, maybe try getting the Triforce Charts and shards as you play through the game gradually versus rushing to get them at the very end. Honestly, you might have more fun playing Wind Waker this way. I know I did. Well, except for the parts of this video where I left dungeons in the middle of them. Yeah, I really don't recommend you play any Zelda game like that, it's really fucking weird. Don't do that. Unless you really want to, which, hey, I mean, you know what? You got free will. You do whatever the fuck you want. Also, playing the game this way feels rewarding because you're slowly building up the Triforce throughout your whole adventure versus your vote dad telling you to do it now because you've been procrastinating it throughout the whole game. Now, are some people gonna watch this video and still save the Triforce Chart quest until the very end of the game? Yeah, probably. But I just want to show that it's actually not as bad as some people make it out to be. And at the end of the day, this quest line is only as tedious as you make it out to be. You can do it throughout the game, or you can wait until the very end. The game is more open about this than you think, and I just wanted more people to be aware of it. Hi, welcome to the video that I scripted out in one day, and then after I fully scripted it, I went back and I re-edited it like multiple times because I was not happy with it. I kid you not, I was stuck in this video for like a good month and a half because I knew what I wanted to say, but I did not know how to really write it in a way that made sense or even got my point across. Hell, I still don't even know if I really got my point across in this video, and I'm not really sure how to feel about this video, but I decided to say fuck it. I'm not going to be able to make this video perfect, but I still wanted to make the video, and here we are. Also, a huge thanks to my friend Ralt who helped me rewrite a section of this video, which I would then rewrite and then rewrite and then rewrite until I was happy with it. But even then, I never really got to the point where I was really happy with it, so I just kind of went fuck it, and here we are. Don't get me wrong, I actually did try a lot to make this video as good as it possibly could be. I just don't know how to make it perfect, I guess. Also, I feel like the comments are gonna actually me a lot in this video or something. I mean, I do technically mess up because I say pieces instead of shards, but I was like, I am not re-recording that for such a minor error. It's not even a big deal, at least I hope it's not. But yeah, I'm not super confident about how people are gonna react to this video or just how this video is gonna go in general, especially because it's not a Pokemon video. So if you got this far, you don't mind dropping a comment or a like or something like that, I would really appreciate that. Not even like in a YouTube metrics way, even if it would help my YouTube stats and whatnot, but more of a, I watched this video, I liked what I saw, here I have my support kind of way. But that's all I have for now, so I'll see you guys later. Bye!